Gajananam Bhutaganati Sevitam Kapita Jambu Palasar Pakshitam Umasutam Soka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Sankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Bande Guru Paramparam Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Parabanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Om Shri Matre Namaha Om Shri Annadhaya Namaha Om Shri Vasudhaya Namaha Om Shri Sachamara Ramavani Sabya Dakshina Sevitaya Namaha Om Shri Kataksha Kinkari Bhuta Kamala Koti Sevitaya Namaha Om Shri Shiva Saktya Aikya Rupinye Namaha Om Shri Lalita Ambikaya Namaha Om Shri Shantananta Avaduta Sadgurave Namaha Om Shakti Om Parashakti Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Om Shakti Om Parashakti Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Om Shakti Om Parashakti Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Namah Parvati Pataye Hara Hara Mahadeva. Namaskarams to all. Welcome to session 6 in the Lalita Sahasranamam series under the Vande Vidya Shankaram program of SPBF North. It has been a very good program and very happy to participate in this continuously since last 6 months now. A quick recall of our last session 5. We covered slokams up to 59, covering about 243 namas. We learned about Ambal's Sushva Swarupam, had many hidden qualities, and what they mean to a devotee. We learned what are mantras, yantras, and tantras, and how Devi is the very soul of all. Some of the slokas, like between 54 and 57, beginning with Maha, describe the greatness of Ambal. Ambal is worshipped with 64 upacharams or offerings, and she embodies 64 forms of fine arts, attended by the great 64 crores of bands of yoginis. Devi is a personification of Manu Vidya and Chandra Vidya. Now, following last session, I received some very interesting questions and comments. I'd like to answer these questions at the very beginning before we start our session 6. I'm going to show you what these questions are. Very interesting. It is on the slide. The first question from Meenakshi Sundaram, Detroit. It was indeed a great session. I have a question related to Devi's description as Nishkriya. When she herself is Kriya Shakti Swarupam, is it a definition of her absolute inaction status? Some more explanation is required to understand the dichotomy of the status related to supreme Nirguna status of Brahman as creative role and a motivator and its protection role. But there is a sequel, a second one, which is a comment, which is also connected to the first question, is from Dr. Jambanathan in Detroit. If you can highlight some differences between Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman in your next lecture, it will be good. So what I propose to do is take this first part of the question regarding Nishkriya. At the same time, I'd like to thank both Meenakshi Sundaram and Dr. Jambanathan for their very keen observations. These are very relevant questions. And I'd like to answer the first part of the question about Nishkriya. You know, there is a remarkable feature about Sanskrit. Simple words can have multiple levels of meanings. The word Kriya itself has to be viewed in such a context. They have different meanings. Ambal as supreme power is described as Nishkriya. Here, Kriya refers to action. Amba is seen without any action. Nish means no, no action. She is still without movement or any activity. Whereas Kriya in Kriya Shakti refers to the power to act or the potential energy of Amba. To give you a simple example, you use water every day for drinking, cooking, washing, bathing, everything. It is just an ordinary liquid. You don't see, when you look at water, you don't see any action in it. Nishkriya. When we drink a glass of water, how many of us really think about the enormous energy it holds? It can drive huge turbines to generate electricity. Think of Niagara feeding New York City. It converts the potential energy of water into clean electricity. Water is constructive, but it can also be destructive. Like the floods recently in South India, you might have seen the chilling pictures of the holy town of Tirupati flooded like never before. Another example, every day we eat food, which gives you the Shakti to do work. That is Kriya Shakti. But the food you eat, it is made from maybe rice or wheat or whatever grains. When you look at that, that is without any action. When you look at rice or wheat, there is no action. But when you convert it into food and eat it, it gives you the Shakti. It holds the Shakti. Likewise, you fill gas in your car. The fuel is a liquid, it's showing no action. But it has the potential energy or Kriya Shakti to drive your car. We eat corns, but rarely think about the ethanol that is produced from corn, which is also used as a fuel to drive cars. So in Lalitha Sahasranamam, there is a verse which talks about Amba Shakti. Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Swarupini, Sarvadhara Supratishta, Satat Rupadarini. Divine Mother is a form of triad, three Shaktis, Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. One is the power of will, knowledge and action. Jnana Shakti is knowledge, Kriya Shakti is action. All of which manifest during creation itself. A baby gets the energy to cry and move its limbs the moment it is born. It desires to drink milk. It has a brain, which is the nerve center to store knowledge, identify its mother. All these are potential energy that is converted into various activities. And Amba is the supporter of all this energy. She is the very foundation of life. Sarva Adhara. The second line says Sarva Adhara when you read it, but what it meant is Sarva Adhara. Means everything in our life is supported by these three Shaktis. And these powers are the foundation. Supratishta means it is the foundation of our life. And these three Shaktis are potential energy, Kriya Shakti, provided by Devi to all of us. Now, how efficiently use the energy depends on you. You can eat moderately and be healthy, or eat lots of food and get indigestion. You can drive a car efficiently and save fuel, or drive at high speeds and probably get a ticket for speeding. So in physics, we learned that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one state to another. The total amount of energy in the world remains the same. Isn't it interesting? Who maintains it as a constant energy without making it more or less? It is Amba. We do not see electricity, Nishkriya, but only experience its action or effects, which is Kriya Shakti. Okay, to conclude, Nishkriya represents no action like water, rice, or gas, and it's a definition of Amba's seemingly absolute inaction status, inaction. And Kriya Shakti refers to the potential energy in that status for carrying out various activities. In short, Nishkriya is in Kriya Shakti itself. Hence, Ambal is called Parashakti, the superpower who maintains a constant level of energy throughout the universe. I hope that answers the first part of the question. Now, let's go to the second part of the question. It is on Nirguna Brahman, Saguna Brahman. Let me confess, I am not an expert in either of them. At best, I will give you comments based on what I have learned from some of the great Mahans. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he used to give a very simple example. You know, he says, you imagine a shoreless ocean, an ocean which is only water, you don't see anything else, no cloud, nothing. It is also having no shore. It has no attributes at all. Supposing an iceberg or a ship appears in the ocean, what happened? The ocean has acquired a feature or an attribute. Now you can say that the ship is moving in this direction and not in the other direction. No, between the earlier ocean, shoreless ocean, and this ocean, what is the difference? Same ocean. Earlier it was featureless, totally free from any attribute. But now it has acquired an attribute, therefore it is an ocean which is compared to Saguna Brahman. So the shoreless ocean is what is described as a Nirguna Brahman without attributes, and the ocean which has a ship or an iceberg is a Saguna Brahman. So that's a simple example that was given by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And Kanchi Pariva, Mahapariva, he has given a lot of explanation on this, but I'll give you only the highlights of what he has said. I'm quoting him actually. The supreme Brahman of our Advaita Sahasram philosophy is of two kinds, Nirguna and Saguna, without and with attributes. Nirguna Brahman is without avayavam. Avayavam means limbs or parts. Without avayavam. On the same Nirguna Brahma, we meditate by bringing it to Saguna. In the form we meditate, the Nirguna Brahman would arrive as the Devatas. It is said there are 33 crores of Devatas, and the Brahman remains Anugata, inherent in all the Devatas. In short, there is really no dichotomy. Both Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman coexist simultaneously as two sides of the coin. Mahaprabhu explains, the sadhaka on the jnana path is supposed to have his God, not with attributes, but as the Nirguna Atman. So he has to show his love, bhakti only toward that Atman. Does it mean that the Atman is not Nirguna, but only Saguna that does actions? If it is Saguna, then what is not? That is not our objective. How can that be so? Some questions like this may arise. No, this is where one has got to bring what is called Shraddha or faith. Our Acharya, I am talking about Shankaracharya, who takes great care to show us the way, has already created the bodyguard of Shraddha for our protection. He is quoting Upanishads, saying that don't ask any questions about Saguna and Nirguna. Say the very Upanishad, which have talked elaborately about Nirguna Brahman. Take that in full faith and give yourself up to the Atman with love. Thereafter, you will be taken only to the Nirguna absolutes. So say all the Upanishads. So you have to proceed on faith. You have to remind yourself repeatedly, instead of resorting to all kinds of wishful thinking, the best thing would be to go on forward with Shraddha and Shraddha alone. It's a beautiful Viveka Chudamani of Adi Shankaracharya. He encourages all Nirguna Brahma aspirants not to lose heart and says, Manda Madhyama Rupapi Vairagyena Samadhina Prasadena Guroho Seyam Pravriddha Suyate Phalam. So even though the devotee may be Madhyam, Mandam, maybe torpid or mediocre, this yearning for freedom through the grace of Guru may bear fruit by means of vairagyam and calmness. So by the grace of Guru, the effort would become pravritta. Pravritta suyate phalam. It will give you the desired result. So Mahaprabhu also quotes the Siddhas. Kandavar vindadillai. Vindavar kandadillai. There is a saying in Tamil. What happens after one becomes a jnani? They don't say what it is. Kandavar vindadillai. They will not say what it is. Those who have seen it never explained it. And those who speak about it have not seen it yet. So it will be understood only after getting to the state of jnani. And in the scheme of Mother Nature, life becomes raw and matures gradually. If you take a plant, leaves come first, and the flower and the fruit, and then ripen gradually. Same way, we have the 4 paths of Brahmacharya, Grahasthasram, Vanapratham, and Sannyasam towards ultimate realization. So likewise, a devotee cannot and should not go seeking Nirguna Brahman straight, but really start and focus on Saguna Brahma, worship with deep interest. Over a period of time, this worship of Saguna Brahma will dovetail into Nirguna Brahma by the grace of Guru. Because Viveka Chudamani talks a lot, and I'll encourage you to study that for more details. So it is very clear that we don't start with Nirguna Brahma, which is Saguna Brahma, which is a path towards Nirguna Brahma, but one who have reached Nirguna Brahma will never tell what it is about. So that's my comment on Saguna and Nirguna Brahma. If you have more questions, please send me an email and we can talk about it later. Now let's start with today's session. As usual, we'll start with the Dhyana Slokam. Sindhurarana Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Maudispurat Naika Sekaram Pitamukhi Mapina Vatshoruham Panibhyam Malipurna Ratta Sashakam Raktotparam Bibradim Saumyam Ratta Gadatta Ratta Charanam Jayet Paramambikam Arunam Karuna Tarankitakshim Zitapasam Kocha Pushpabana Chapam Adivadi Biravritam Mayukaihi Ragamitte Bhavaye Bhavanim Jayet Padmasanastam Vikasnapadanam Padmapatraya Dakshim Hevabam Pitavastram Karakalital Satyam Padbam Varangim Sarvalankar Tatamavayatam Bhaktanam Brahmbavanim Sri Vidyam Shantamurtim Sakala Suranutam Sarvasampat Pradatrim Sa Kumkuma Vilepana Balikuchumbakasturikam Samantahajidechanam Sasarachapa Pasankusham Asesha Jana Mohinim Arunamalya Bhushambaram Japa Kusuma Basuram Japo Vidos Paret Ambikam. Now let's begin with the slokam number 60. Chara Chara Jagannatha Chakra Raja Niketana Parvati Padma Najana Padma Raga Samaprabha. Very simple lines, easy for anybody to read it, and fairly simple to understand. Chara Chara Jagannatha. It has got charam and acharam. Charam, that moves, that which moves. In Sanskrit, you put ye before as a prefix, it is the opposite, acharam. That which does not move. Jagannatha is ruler of the world. So Ambal is described as a ruler of both animate in inanimate worlds, that which moves, that which does not move. She is the ruler of world which has both these components. Chakra Raja Niketana. Of course, it is very easy to understand that it is Ambal is abiding in Sri Chakra. Everybody knows that. And the next line said Parvati. Parvati refers to the daughter of Parvata Maharaja, Mount Himavan. That's why she's called Parvati. There is a beautiful verse, which talks about Parvata Raja Kumari. I would like to just say that for you. Parvata Raja Kumari Bhavani Panchaya Kripaya Madhuritani Vinadaya Paripurna Katakshi Tripura Sundari Devi Binakshi Aranikarani Narani Puradhanashili Shankaranayaki Shanta Gomati Kunbabedini Shoka Nivar Panchada Sattara Pancharavai Pada Bahesa Vilasi Kanchika Machi Kasi Visalakshi Karunya Lavanya Akilanteshwari Parvata Raja Kumari Bhavani Panchaya Kripaya Mama Duritani. It has almost various names of Ambal, starting with Parvati, Parvata Raja Kumari, and this verse has got names like Tripura Sundari, Devi Meenakshi, Bhavani, Kanchi Kamakshi, Gomati, Kasi Visalakshi, Akhilandeshwari. All the names are in one verse. It's such a beautiful verse. So Parvati is describing the daughter of Parvata Maharaja or Himavan. Padmanayana, next word is lotus sight. Padmam is lotus and Nayana is eyes. The lotus is a symbol of purity and perfect beauty. You will find lotus being described in many of these Sanskrit scriptures. It's used often in describing divine eyes, like Niraja Dala Nayana. All these are related to these lotus qualities. It grows in dirty waters, but it is pure. Next is Padmaraga Samaprabha. Padmaraga is ruby. Padma again lotus because it is red in color, shining like the ruby. Ambal is shining like the ruby. Padmaraga Samaprabha. The next verse is 61. Pancha Pretana Hasina Pancha Brahmaswarupini Chinmayi Paramananda Vijnana Ganarupini. Pancha Pretana Hasina. Pancha is 5 and Preta refers to a corpse. Devi is seated on 5 corpses. How is it? She's sitting on. You can see the picture where you can see the 4 legs of the couch and Devi sitting on Sadashiva as a seat. So you have 5. They are Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, and Sadashiva. They are all motionless without Shakti and hence deemed to be 5 corpses. Devi reclines on the cot, whose 4 legs are Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the protector, Shiva, the destroyer, and Ishvara is Tirodhana, or disappearance, and whose top surface is Sadashiva. Brahma looks after the creation, Vishnu, he looks after sustenance, and Rudra, the destroyer, and Mahadeva holds the dissolved universe, Tirodhanam, and Sadashiva is one who again recreates the universe, Anugraham. It is said that these 5 cannot function without Shakti. So great is the unifying principle of Shakti. Pure Sadashiva is become motionless, a corpse without Shakti. He is incapable of doing anything. Now, there is the very first slokam of Saundarya talks about how Shiva is powerless without Shakti. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yati Bhavati Shaktaha Prabhavitum Nache Devam Devo Nagalu kusala spantitumapī Ataspamarathyagam Harihara Virinchadipirapi Pranantum sotum va Katamakrita punya prabhavati. The very first slogam says Shiva becomes totally inert without Shakti. I will tell you a secret about female names in Sanskrit. I don't know, some of you may or may not know it. Most of them end in A or E. Like you see Lalitha, Vidya, Aparna, Ramya, Lavanya, Sujata, Purna, and so on. Or they will end in E, like Meenakshi, Kamakshi, Kaveri, Prabhavati, Lakshmi, and so on. So in Tamil, if the E is taken out from Shiva, Shivam is she. You take the E out, it becomes Shavam. Shavam means a corpse. So when Shiva is not united with Shakti, he cannot do anything. So that is the power of, that is the power. That is the power. Somebody says, Shakti Layel Shivam Illai. That's true, very true. Now, these 5 deities it demonstrates, and it is emphasizing the fact that there is no deity superior to Lalitha. So Lalitha's supremacy is unquestionable. That is why she is called Parashakti. The Bhaskaraya, who wrote the Bhashyam for Lalitha Sahasranamam, Saubhagya Bhaskaram, and based on which I am giving many things, he gives another explanation. In Tantric literature, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, Shiva are considered as 5 Panchabhutas. Brahma is Prithvi, from which all living things get created. That is the earth. Vishnu is Apu, water. And Rudra is considered Agni, fire. Ishvara is considered Vayu, air, because without air, life cannot exist. And Sadashiva is Akasha. Akasha is sky. So each of these 5 Brahmas reside in the different sense organs of all beings. So in another way, Lalitha Devi is sitting on the Pancha Brahmas, implies that she is the master of all these senses and the ruler of those. That is a commentary given by Bhaskaraya. And I think that is also equally relevant because Devi is ruling all of us as she is ruling everybody else. Coming to the next line, next word rather, Pancha Brahma Swarupini. The 5 Brahmans are her form. As we saw before, the 5 begin with Brahma, end with Sadashiva. And Bhaskaraya is adding more. He says these are included in the Brahman because Tripuri Siddhanta says the unconditioned Brahman by the play of Maya in itself becomes Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, and Sadashiva. Thus, by name only, Brahman is in 5 forms. And the 5 Brahmas are also Ishana, Tatpurusha, Agora, Vamadeva, and Satyojata. The Linga Purana says Jiva, Prakriti, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Manas. The 5 senses, namely ear, skin, eyes, tongue, and the nose. And the subtle elements are the forms of the 5 Brahman. So it is described in the same book that the 5 elements are the causes creating the 5 gross elements. So these are our forms. 5 forms, 5 senses too, and 5 Brahmans. Chinmayi, next word, it means consciousness itself. And Paramananda, Param is superlative, nothing above that. Parama Anandam, supreme bliss. Devi is the form of supreme bliss. You pray to her, you also acquire Paramananda. Vijnana Gana Rupini. Vijnana here means Chaitanya. Gana is one strong essence of consciousness. Going further, let's go to the next slide. Jnanadatru Deya Rupa Dharma Dharma Vivarjita Vishwarupa Jakarani Supanti Taijasatmika. Nice verse. Jnana Jaya Jaya Rupa. It has to be split. The root is actually Jaya, which means to think. Dhyanam comes from this root, which means meditation. Dhyana Jaya Jaya Rupa. Ambal is nothing but meditation. She is the meditator. And she is also the object of meditation. Dhyana Datru Jaya Rupa. So it has two meanings. Ambal is, one is she herself is Dhyanam, meditation. And second, she is the meditator. And finally, Jaya Rupa, which means she is the object of meditation. So that is the meaning of this one. And Dharma, Dharma Vivarjita. Dharma comes from the root dhru, to bear. And Ma, in greatness. So as it bears, as it is a great one, it's called Dharma. The word Dharma, you explain in different ways. One definition is that which leads to a desirable result and taught by gurus as Dharma, and Adharma is the opposite of that. Like you put any A up in as a prefix, in Sanskrit it becomes opposite. Dharma and Adharma. One is virtue, the other one is vice. So Ambal is devoid of virtue and vice. Dharma is what is prescribed in scriptures. Devi is free from these two, because these scriptures are only meant for us, for common people who are ignorant. She is far above that. So she is devoid of Dharma or Adharma. Now, from the next Nama, you find Vishwarupa Jakarani. There are 8 Namas which describe the different stages of consciousness in which Ambal exists. No, these are more philosophical and are discussed in detail in Mandukya Upanishad and certain other Upanishads. We will not go too much into the detail because it is a very vast subject, but I'll just give you a brief meaning of the verses which we are going to talk about, especially the Namas from 256 to 263, which is containing in this verse now, Vishwarupa. It starts with Vishwarupa. Vishwarupa is omnipresent. The meaning is that our form is the universe itself. We have another word called Jakarani. You know, there's different conscious states. They are called Jagrat, Swapna, and Susupti. In fact, the word Jagrata in Tamil comes from Jagrat. Hindi also it is Jagrat. So Jagrat is meaning the waking state, being alert. Jakarani. She is in the fully conscious state of alertness. Swapanti is the dreaming state, Swapnam. Taijasatmika. She is Taijasa itself. What is Taijasa? Taijasa means literally one who is bright, luminous. As I said, the individual soul or jiva has 3 states of consciousness. One is Jagrat, which is waking state. Another is Swapna, is a dream state. And Sushupti is a deep sleep state. So when the soul, Jiva, gets associated with these three states, it is called Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna. Now, Vishwa is the waking stage, which is engrossing, rather engaging our Sthula Sarira, our physical body. We know when we are awake, whatever action we do, we are conscious of it, and it is related to our Sthula Sarira. Taijasa, which is a dream state, which is engaging what is called the subtle body or Sukha Sarira. We dream something, but it is not real, but it is something which only we experience. And Prajna is a deep sleep stage, which is actually engaging the bliss body or the ultimate experience of Brahman. So Taijasa is the second aspect, where the sphere of activity is the dream state. So the self is able to engage in something very bright. A person imagines he's a pilot of a plane or something like that. So it is given a name Taijasa, the luminous one. In this state, the self, passions its own world of dreams. The dream objects give delight to the self for some people. And in this sense, the self is liberated from the empirical world. So in the second state of consciousness, namely the dream state, the awareness is experience consisting of mere impressions, which are subtle. So the enjoyment of them also becomes subtle. The first state of Jagrat is the waking life of outward moving external consciousness. The second is inward looking consciousness, the dream life. So Ambal exists in all these states. Then comes the next verse 63. Supta prajnatmika turya sarvavastha vivarjita srishtikartri brahmarupa goptri govinda rupini. Supta is the state of sleep. In Hindi say sona. So jao, they say go to sleep. Supta. Bhaskaraya says, now description of this, what is given in the Shiva Sutra, is the state of sleep is incapable of any discrimination. It is incapacity. It is illusion. One says, I slept happily, I know nothing. Only from recollection is able to say that. So by saying that, his avidya or ignorance is seen. Ignorance, egoism, and happiness. So sound sleep is one in which all these three exist. You have your ignorance, you have the ego, you have the happiness. So that is the state of sleep, and it is described as something which is incapable of discrimination. Prajnatmika, Prajna himself, Prajna is Ishvara, who is the collective form of jivas. That is Prajna, Prajna Atmika. Next is Turya. It means a state of ecstasy. Turya is a state in which it is beyond those three states which we described earlier. And it is something where the state is Suddha Vidya, or the result of discrimination of the other three states and enjoys thereof. So it is something which is beyond the three states. It is a state of ecstasy. And Bhaskaraya quotes Shiva Sutra, which says, though there are three different states, Jagrat, Swapna, and Subdhi, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, real enjoyment exists only in the fourth one. Ecstasy in the fourth stage should be allowed like oil to permeate the other three. Devi is known by the name Turya. So it is a state of ecstasy. Sarvavastha Vivarjita. It means Devi is transcending all the three states. There is also a fifth state of Jivas, but it has got no special name, as it is beyond Turya. It is simply called beyond Turya. This name indicates the fifth state, all the states, Sarvavastha Vivarjita. Vivarjita means we is entirely. That is one which does not return to the other states. Now, this state has two aspects. One is individual and collective. The fifth state arises from firmness in the fourth one, that is Turya. So Sarvavastha Vivarjita covers actually 5 states. Turya and above Turya, beyond Turya, which has no name. So that is the ultimate bliss. Now, after this description of 5 divisions of Jiva's consciousness in which Ambal exists, Lalitha Sahasranamam proceeds to describe the 5 main functions of Ambal. Shri Kartri Brahma Rupa Goptri Govinda Rupini. Shri Kartri, Ambal is creator. How? Brahma Rupa in the form of Brahma. Goptri, she is a protector, sustaining the universe. How? Govinda Rupini in the form of Govinda. So she is also Brahma and she is also Govinda, doing their functions. Samharani Rudra Rupa Tirodhana Karishwari Sadashiva Anugrahata Panchakritya Parayana. Samharani, destroyer, she is the destroyer. Samhara, reducing the universe into atoms. Devi is also the destroyer. How? In Rudra Rupa, in the form of Rudra. Ru actually means pain, causing pain. And Dra is driving out pain. Rudra is one who drives away pain. Sri Rudram, Rudram who drives away sorrow. So Shiva, the supreme cause, is called Rudra. Tirodhana Karishwari. Tirodhana means illusion, Maya, causing the disappearance. Shiva causes the disappearance of universe. So Tirodhana Karishwari. Ishwari is ruler. Sadashiva. Devi is also called Sadashiva because the superlative sattva quality predominates in her, and she gives anugrahata, conferrer of blessing. Tirodhana and anugraha means respectively bondage. Tirodhana is bondage by illusion and anugraha is release from bondage. So she Samharani Rudrupa Tirodhana Karishwari Sadashiva Anugrahata Panchakritya Parayana. She is doing all these 5 functions. So this shows what her functions are. Panchakritya, 5 functions. Parayana means very fond of or devoted to. So she is devoted to these 5 functions. So Devi Bhagavatam also says, which is quoted by Bhaskar Raya, she creates the universe, she protects, she destroys what she protects at the end of the cycle. She is who in her 3 forms bewilders the universe. Brahma, united with her, creates the universe. Vishnu, when united with her, protects. And Rudra, united with her, destroys. She binds the whole universe and holds bewildered by the noose of illusion. So this is what is quoted in Devi Bhagavatam. And Bhaskar Raya tells this in the Bhashyam, in Saubhagya Bhaskam. The next verse, 65, Bhanu Mandala Madhyastha Bhairavi Bhagavalini Padmasana Bhagavati Padmanabha Sahodari. Bhanu Mandala Madhyastha. Bhanu means sun. And Ambal is residing in the midst of the sun's disk, Madhyastha, Bhanu Mandalam. middle of the Banu Mandapam. Bhairavi is wife of Bhairava or Paramashiva. Bhagamalini. Bhaga means actually 6 parts. Bhaga has got various meanings. The 6 parts are supremacy, righteousness, fame, prosperity, wisdom, and discrimination. So she is Bhagamalini. Malini means who wears a mala, garland. And she wears all these. Bhagamalini means wearing the garland of Bhaga. In Kerala, Devi is called by the name Bhagavati. So she is one who's conferring all these 6 of Bhaga. And next is Padmasana. I told you lotus comes in very often. Here it is Padmasana, means Devi is seated on the lotus. Bhagavati, I said that Bhagavati has got many meanings, and Kerala Bhagavati is very popular. It means actually supremacy, wisdom, fame, power, prosperity, all that. So these are all in Devi, so she is called Bhagavati. Shakti Rahasya says the word Bhaga is derived from the root bhaj, to worship, like bhajan. Bhajan is also from the same root bhaj. She is worshipped by all the devas and she blesses them. Therefore, she is called Bhagavati. This is another interpretation which is quoted by Bhaskar Raya. Then comes Padmanabha Sahodari. It is very easy to understand. Sister of Padmanabha or Vishnu. What is Padmanabha? Padma coming out of the Nabi. You see the picture of Vishnu, there is a lotus which is coming out of the Nabi. Therefore, it's called Padmanabha. See, one Brahman assumed basically 2 forms, a male and female. And the male is Vishnu, who is the material cause of the whole universe. And the female became the spouse of Paramashiva. Now, the secret of the Saiva theory is that these 3 in combination become the one indivisible Brahman. Vishnu, in the male form, is said to be Narayana. And in the female form, it is thought of as Narayani or Parvati. So these Narayana and Narayani are considered as brother and sister. They also look, dressed and decorate alike with similar character and qualities. In fact, in my native village of Maharajapuram, the deity is called Vishnu Durga. And the deity is in a Saumya Rupam. Even though it is called Durga, she is in a Saumya Rupam carrying Shankha Chakram and Gata just like Vishnu. So Vishnu and Parvati, they are said to be brother and sister. Brahma and Lakshmi and Shiva and Saraswati are also similarly related. So 3 divine couples. So Padmanabha Sahodari means she is the sister of Vishnu. Okay, we'll go to the next verse, 66. Unmesha Nimishotpanna Vipanna Bhuvanavalī Sahasrasisha Vadana Sahasrachi Sahasrapat. Unmesha Nimishotpanna Vipanna Bhuvanavalī. There is a series of worlds arise and disappear with the opening and shutting of our eyes. Unmesha Nimishotpanna Vipanna Bhuvanavalī. So the creation of the Supreme is simply the expression of her wish. Bhaskar Raya quotes Kalidas in this case. The universe consisting of the seer, the seen and the seeing, with all its parts, existed in you before you thought of creation. At the manifestation of the universe, at your will, your eyes open. At the destruction of the universe, at your will, your eyes shut. So merely by opening the eyes, Devi creates the universe, and merely by shutting the eyes, she makes it she destroys it. So that is one word, one long word, Unmesh Nimishotpanna Vipanna Bhunavali. The next one says, Sahasrasrisha Vadana Sahasrati Sahasrapad. Sahasrasrisha Vadana. Sir, head, no? Sahasra means 1,000. 1,000-headed. And Vadana means face. And 1,000 faces. Ambal has 1,000 heads and also 1,000 faces. A cosmic being. Purusha Suktam, from Rigveda begins with Sahasrasrisha Purushaha Sahasracha Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishyato Vritka Atyatishta Angulam. The very first beginning of Purusha Suktam says Sahasrasrisha Purushaha. Who is Purusha? He is the cosmic being, and Ambal is also the cosmic being in this case, because she is described as Sahasrasrisha Vadana. Atyatishta Dashangulam, I want to make this Angulam. Angulam is 1 inch, they call, which is the unit of measurement. It was known thousands of years back in our great India, before it was even invented by the other countries. Atyatishta Dasangulam, Angulam. Purusha is 1,000-headed, 1,000-eyed, and 1,000-footed. Of course, here 1,000 doesn't mean exactly 1,000, it means unlimited. Sahasrashi, Akshi means eye, 1,000-eyed. Sahasrapat, which is 1,000 feet. So Devi Bhagavatam also says, Devi having 1,000 eyes, thousands of hands, thousands of heads and feet, and vividly shines forth. Bhaskar Raya actually quotes Devi Bhagavatam in this case. So the next one is verse 67. Brahmakita Janani Varna Srama Vidayini Nijajna Rupa Nigama Punya Punya Phala Prada. Brahmakita Janani. She is the mother. All from Brahma. Kita means worm or insect, Even in Hindi, you say Kita. It's a worm. Right from Brahma to a worm, she is the Janani, means mother. She is the mother of all. I'll tell you a very interesting story about this. Kanchi Mahaperiyava was camping in Calcutta, when even All India Vijayatra, 1935. And it was Navaratri time. It was a great celebration at Periva's camp. Every day there was Navavarna Puja, Sumangali Puja, Kanya Puja, and many more. One very, very devoted lady by name Challama Mami, who never missed it. She used to visit Periva, and she was also a regular visitor to Rabindranath Tagore's ashram. Tagore was, I never knew Kanchi Mahaperiva and Rabindranath met each other, and they were at the same time. And after visiting Periva's camp, this Challama Mami used to go to Tagore's ashram. Any Calcutta Vasi, is in Devi Upasaka. And Tagore was also a Sri Vidya Upasaka, but he had some modern thoughts himself. And Tagore's command, literature is very known well. He was a Nobel laureate. And Mami had visited Tagore at that time, and Tagore was asking where we were. So she said, Kanchi Periva, Mahaperiva has come, and therefore we had Navavarna Puja and all that. Now, Tagore understood that Periva was also a Devi Upasaka, but he said, he asked a question to Mami, does Swamiji do Kanya Puja only with Brahmin child or any other child? And Mami said, no, Periva never deviates from the tradition. He does Kanya Puja only with Brahmin child. Tagore, a respected scholar, he quoted this Brahmakita Janani from Lalitha Sahasranamam, that he is a great Devi Upasaka. It means she is the source of everything, from tiny worms all the way to Brahma. Why is he still thinking of having only a Brahmin child for Kanya Puja? So Mami didn't answer. She was very upset to hear somebody like Tagore taking a dig at Periva. When she came back to meet Periva next day, Periva asked, why did you come yesterday? Oh, she said, I went to meet Tagore. And Periva understood. And he said, did he say anything about me? That question she couldn't hold. She said with tears. And this is what he said about doing Kanya Puja for Brahmin child. And Periva just smiled and says, there are 3 more aksharams after this, which says Varnashrama Vidhayani. Ask him to include them also while reading. And Mavi went back to Tagore and said what Periva said. And Tagore repeated it. Brahmakita Janani Varnashrama Vidhayani Nijajnaru Parikama Punya Punyafala Prada. And he said, he clapped his hand, aha, that's a way to understand Devi Sahasranamam. I didn't know it. And he's a great Mahan. Have you told him what I told him? It's a mistake. Then he says, I want to have his darshan. I must have. Please arrange. But not openly, but because Swamiji will pressure on me on visit. But I must have his darshan. And later on, Tagore did have darshan with Periva. So this is a very nice story about what is Brahmakita Janani, Varnashrama Vidhayani. She who established the castes and orders of life. There is a lot of criticism of Varnashrama. Veda, there are 2 parts, Karma Kanda and Brahma Kanda. Karma Kanda is that part of the Shruti which relates to all the ceremonial rituals and sacrificial rites. The Devas and lower animals have no share in the Karma Kanda. But Divine Mother established Dharma through Karma Kanda after dividing people into 4 castes and 4 orders. The system of 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra, it is ordained in the Vedas. It was based on mutual support and service. The Brahmanas served the eyes and mouth of society. They provided the spiritual vision for society, and they were teachers. Just as the arms are raised to defend the body, the Shakti's main duty is to protect society and fight. The Vaishya's main duty is commerce, material nourishment, and the Sutra supports all the other sections of society. You find in olden days, the king supported the Brahmins and provided protection to them. Because they had not much of income excepting Dakshina which they get. So they needed a house, the kings provided the house. And they provided protection to them. For example, in my own native village, it's called Maharajapuram. It was gifted by the Maratha Maharaja to a group of Brahmin scholars. So also Bhaskar Rajapuram, Bhaskar Rayas, was gifted with that village by the Maratha king. He had a house there, which is still there, Bhaskar Rajapuram. So even today, many Veda Padasalas are run with the help of Vaishyas and other communities. Temples with amazing architecture were built by artisans and sculptors who were helped by the 4th Varna. Even today, some communities work on hereditary pieces like weavers, potters, goldsmiths, sculptors, or well at their respective professions and preserving their time-honored skills. They're winning appreciation in many countries. History shows the 4 Varnas cooperated very well with each other for thousands of years and lived happily, as pointed out by many historians. What went wrong after the British came? The divide and rule policy came, and then government policy changed, and everything changed. So today one might ask, where is Varnashrama? It is still there, but in a decayed condition. The Vedas are not changed. In today's society, it's a materialist society. People run after money and material comforts. But not so. Even recently, some 100 years ago, people were mostly driven by their duty and simple satisfaction. In fact, even when I was young, I've seen that some of these communities were so dedicated to their job, like goldsmiths, like potters. They were doing even laundry people. Dhobi is a laundryman. There used to be one laundryman in my house. He used to come and pick up the clothes every week. He didn't complain. He was a very satisfactory, happy worker. So Mahapariva says, Varnashrama kept communities together, small communities together, and they perpetuated the skills generation after generation. So that is what is great about Varnashrama. Okay, next line. Nija Jnana Rupa Nigama. Agya means a command. It is ascertained by the knowers of the Vedas. The Vedas are the expression of her command. This is what it means. Nija Jnana Rupa Nigama. You know, Nigama is another name for Vedas. Agama is another word. Agama is the name for the scriptures which are closely aligned with the Vedas, but have their own distinct language, structure, and philosophy. So grammatically, both Nigama and Agama signify something passed down through a lineage. The prefix ni, you see, has more of a sense of fixed and arranged. The prefix a has more of a sense of coming from many sources. So Nigama is a term which is used for Vedas, and Agama, which is passed down and sense coming from many sources. So the Vedas are well defined, close, unchanged for thousands of years, whereas the Agama literature has been more fluid and it is accumulated over centuries. So Devi represents Nigama, the Vedas. Punya Punya Phala Prada. You know Punyam. It's actually two words. Punya Punya consists Punya Apunya. Punya means good, and Apunya means bad. So here Punya, Apunya, Phalaprada means Devi is the giver of results, good and bad, both, depending upon what your karma is. What is sown is reaped. So results arising out of such actions gives bad and good results. The end result of karmic account. So such results accrue at her command. She is the Lord of Karma. And Bhaskaraya quotes Brahma Sutra, which confirms this. It says, Phalamat Upapate. This means the fruit of action is from him. This being the logical position. Mother gives the good and bad results arising from ordained and prohibited actions, respectively. So let's go further to verse 68. Shruti Simanta Sinduri Kritapatabja Dulika Sakalagama Santoga Sukti Sampudamautika. Shruti Simanta Sindurika Sinduri Krita Padapja Dulika. Shruti means Vedas, what is heard. Simanta, Sima and Anta. Sima is what? A border. Anta is end. You know, the parting of the hair for women on this, it is called Simanta, where the Sindur is applied here. Sindur is applied here, where Sinduri Krita, which is actually the essence of Vedas. Upanishad. Patabja Dulika. Patabja means lotus feet. And Dulika means dust. The dust of our lotus feet forms a vermilion mark on the parting of the hair here. And it is supposed to be in Vedas. Dust whose feet is the essence of Upanishads. You must have heard the word Simantam, a ritual which is performed to a woman during pregnancy, which means literally the hair parting just above the eyebrow. Sima Antam. And here it is Antam. Ambal resides in the parting. That is why the practice of applying kumkum here on the parting is a manner of propitiating Devi, and thus the woman as Sumangali. Even today, you'll find people in Bengali women follow this practice And of course, some of the other women also follow the practice of applying kumkum here and going through the Simantam. So Ambal, she's having this verblon mark dust of her lotus feet on the parting of the hair, and which is also meaning Vedas. So Shruti Simanta Sinduri Krita Patapcha Dhulika. So to this day, this practice is to apply Sindur here. Sakalagama Santoha Sukti Samputa Mauktika. Sakalagama. If supposing you enclose all the Vedas in a shell, Devi is like the inner pearl in that. A pearl is an expression which indicates our attributes of dharma, and the scriptures describe only a nose pearl and other jewels, and not really her real nature. Sakalagama Santoga Sukti Sampurna Mautika. So that is it is describing her attributes as an inner pearl amongst the Vedas. Purushartha Pradha Purna Bhogini Bhuvaneshwari Ambika Nati Nidana Hari Brahmendra Sevita. This is verse 69. Purushartha Pradha. She grants all the objects of man. What are there are 4 Purusharthas, Dharmartha Kama Moksham. Dharmartha Kama Moksham. Dharma, moral values, righteousness. Artha is economic values. You go for a job, prosperity, all materials, comforts. Kama, pleasure, love, psychological value. Moksha is ultimate liberation and spiritual values. So she is one who grants you all the 4 Purusharthas. Purna, fullness. There is the Shanti Mantram. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Mevavasishyate. From Purna is manifested Purna. Taking Purna from Purna, Purna remains. No, they say Indians invented zero. The concept of zero was born out of this maybe, because 0 plus 0 is equal to 0, 0 minus 0 is 0. Purnat, Purnamidam, Purnamachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Now, this is a typical. So she is fullness, Purna. Some people have the name as Purna also. It is Ambal's name, which means it represents the fullness. Bhogini. Bhogini is Bhoga means enjoying. Bhogini is the enjoyer. And Bhuvaneshwari, ruler of the universe. Bhuvana represents the 14 worlds. Bhuvaneshwari is a deity indicated by the syllable Hrim. So she is in the form of Hrim. A very famous temple of Bhuvaneshwari in Pudukkottai, the city of my birth, and also my wife. A beautiful temple built by my Gurunadar, Santananda Swami, and Bhuvaneshwari. In fact, they are now constructing a new temple at the same place, going to be much bigger. So Bhuvaneshwari also is the name of Devi. Ambika. Ambika is mother. Amba, Amma, Sri Mata, all mean mother. She is the mother of universe. Anadi Nidana. Anadi means no beginning. Nidana means no end. Having neither beginning nor end. But has no beginning nor end. Hari Brahmendra Sevita. She is worshipped by Hari, Brahma, and Indra. Bhaskar Raya explains further, in the Sri Chakra, In the center, between the 17th and 18th wall, is the seat of Vishnu. Between the 16th and 17th is Brahma. Between the 14th and the 15th is Indra and other Lokapalas. All these reside in the respective places within the Sri Chakra for the sake of worshipping Devi. He also quotes Devi Bhagavatam. It says, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, Varuna, Yama, Vayu, Agni, Kubera, Pusan, Ashwin, Bhaga, Adityas, Vasu, Rudras, Viswadevas, all these meditate on Devi, the cause of creation and preservation and destruction. Hari Brahman Sevita is worshipped by Hari, Brahma, and Indra. So let's go to the last one, I think, the 70. This is the last verse we have today. Narayani Nadarupa Nama Rupa Vivarchita Shrinkari Hrimati Hritya Heyo Padeya Varchita. Narayani, we already spoke. The sister of Vishnu is called Narayani. There is a beautiful temple. It is called Sankaran Kovil. It is where Sankara Narayan is a deity, Shiva and Vishnu are in one form. And on this Vigraham has Vishnu to the left of Shiva. Ambal is also on the left side of Shiva in Ardhanarishwara. Beautiful temple in Tiruchengodu near Erodi. It's on the top of a hill. So Ambal is Narayani. And in Durga Saptasloki we say that Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Saranye Trayambike Gauri Narayani Namostute. So Bhaskaraya is adding one more explanation here. He said the word Narayana, what it is. In Manusmriti, the water is called Nara because it emanated from Nara. And that is his first abode, Ayana. Therefore, he is called Narayana. Devi Puranam says because she has her abode in water or she has seat in the ocean, she is called Narayani, the creator of Nara and men and women. So that is another interpretation by Bhaskaraya. Nada Rupa, in the form of sound. 8 notes. There are different notes, varnas, above the bindu of the syllable Shrim, such as Ardhachandra, Rodini, Nada, Nadanta, Shakti, Vyapika, Samana, and Munmani, which are subtle, more subtle, and more subtle. Of these, the third one, Ardhachandra, Rodini, Nada. The third one is Nada. Nada means simply sound. So she's also existing in the form of sound. And the last Nama, which is 300 today, Nama Rupa Vivarjita. See, transcending name and form. There are 5 forms of the universe which appear sort of intertwined in the knot of spirit and matter. And these are analyzed by great people as existence, knowledge, bliss, name, and form. The first 3, existence, knowledge, and bliss, belong to Brahman, and the other 2, name and form, belong to the world. For the later 2, name and form are illusory, and she transcends all these name and form. Namaru Vivarchita. She is not part of them anymore. So, with this verse 70, we complete 300 of the hymns. Now, Bhaskaraya says it is in his Saubhagya Bhaskaram, it is a 4th kala called Marichi. So, up to 300, he calls it as a 4th kala called Marichi. So, we are now coming to the end of this session today. Let me conclude this with my prayers. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Saranye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Parashakti Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Parashakti Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Parashakti Om Shakti Om Shakti Om Swasti Pradape Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahimahisa Go Brahmanapya Subhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Mangalam Guru Shri चंद्रमौलीश्वर के शक्ति गणपति शारदांबिके शंकराचार्यर के शक्ति गणपति महागणपति शारदांबिके के काल भैरव के काली दुर्गै के वीर धीर शूर हनुम मारुति चरणतिर्के मल्लिकार्जुनर के செல்வ ஜனார்தனர் கே அம்பா பவானி கம்பத கணபதி சண்டி சாமுண்டி கே ஸ்ரீ கிருஷ்ண பகவான் கே ஸ்ரீ சக்கரவாசினி கே சீதாராம லக்ஷ்மண சகித மாருதி சரணத்திற்கே வித்யாரண்யர் கே विद्याशंकर के वागीश्वर के वज्रदेग गरुड़ आंजनेयर के श्रीवल्ली देव सेना समेत सुब्रमण्यर के तुंगभद्रै के श्रृंगनिवासिनी के श्रृंगेरी पुरिயில் நிலைத்திருக்கும் எங்கள் சாரதாம்பிகைக்கே सच्चिदानंद शिव अभिनव नृसिंह भारती के श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु सार्वभौमर के श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु विद्यातीर्थर के श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु भारती तीर्थर के श्री चंद्रशेखर भारती गुरु विदुशेखर भारती के मंगलम गुरु श्री चंद्रमौलीश्वर के शक्ति गणपति शारदांबिक शंकराचार्यर के शक्ति गणपति महागणपति शारदांबिகை के श्रृंगेरी पुरिயில் நிறைந்திருக்கும் எங்கள் சாரதாம்பிகைக்கே.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you again. Until we meet next month. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Om Shri Matre Namaha.